You remember the days when I covered this company back in 2013 to 2015. She's saying now is the inflection point to cloud. Some folks might argue that inflection point already happened. What do you take of her finally kind of making this admission that they can't build it in-house and they got to buy it?
I think they should have done an acquisition like this a long time ago when you and I were talking in those days. Now, they didn't do that. They were hanging their hat on Watson. That hasn't really done much for their cloud business, I think. But, you know, this thing in principle can really reshape a lot of the things that they do. It can reshape their software practice, and it can also reshape their global business services practice where, you know, they have lagged companies like Accenture and Deloitte and Capgemini in terms of growth rates. And
that global business services practice is still a majority of revenue, Dan. When you think about how this business does get integrated, Ginny made her name on that services side, integrating PwC Consulting back in the day. How much pressure is on her to actually have a seamless integration with Red Hat into the broader culture and product fit for IBM?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of heat in the kitchen for them to integrate this successfully, and definitely look, it comes with risks, but obviously opportunities, as he talked about. Because right now for cloud, they needed to make a big strategic bet. You know, if you look at it, there's VMware, Red Hat, a handful of others, but if they were going to do it, they need to do it now. Definitely a few years too late, but the integration is going to be the key for the street. And also looking at competitively, you know, like how does this affect Microsoft, Amazon, a two-horse race in cloud? Can IBM become that number 3 player? That's sort of the key here.
So who is shaking most in their boots right now, seeing this acquisition? Is it Amazon? Is it the number 1 leader? Who is most fearful of a combo of IBM and Red Hat?
Yeah, I mean, Amazon and Microsoft continue, they're drinking cappuccinos right now. I mean, it continues to be their world and everyone else is paying rent in terms of cloud. But I think fundamentally speaking, it's the smaller players. I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of consolidation. Cloudera, Hornetworks, I think that's just the start. We're going to see a lot more M&A in cloud, and there's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of smaller players, as you know well, the scale, that's really going to be the issue with these two players coming together.
And that did seem to be what those two executives did talk about. Red Hat has the growth, but the small size. IBM has the scale, but as we know, revenue's fallen by about a quarter since Ginny took over in 2012. Do investors now look at IBM as a growth story? They're reining in buybacks. They're not giving out as much cash. Does this change the narrative for them?
Once again, we talked about it about 6-7 years ago that they shouldn't be doing financial engineering. You should be buying more companies like this. This does give them a lot of good products to sell to the market. I think the one that we think can actually happen is it could benefit somebody like an Amazon or Microsoft or Google because you could shift more workloads to the cloud. And the question for me is really, are they going to be really open in terms of working with these Red Hat products to move some of that products to other clouds and not just go out and say, hey, why don't you move this to IBM's cloud? I think that really is a big thing because if they're not open, I think that could be an issue.
Well, because Red Hat's already working with Amazon. Yeah. They're working with Microsoft's Azure. I guess, is that a cultural shift for IBM to say, look, our products have to be kind of cloud agnostic? Do they have to kind of change their DNA to make that work?
They have to. I mean, there is no way out of it. We have seen with Microsoft. That is the only way to show people that you are agnostic to whoever the end party is and you're going to work with everybody else. You try to stick in your own technology in between, I think they will be in for a surprise.
And I want to come back to your point that you made, Dan, about software acquisitions. I cover the M&A space. Everyone's talking that software is probably where it's at. Semiconductors are kind of slow for their own reasons. In terms of the knock-on effects of this deal, who do you think should be looking at who's out there as a potential target? Which of the big tech companies will need their own Red Hat, let's say, to be in the mix?
Yeah, well, I think right now you look at the core tech players that are going out there. I mean, obviously like Microsoft, Oracle, Cisco, you look where everyone's looking. I think right now you look at names like Pivotal in terms of some players that could be consolidation candidates.
And the new IPOs are getting picked off every other day.
Look, that's part of it. And look, in this dislocation, this is what we've been telling investors, a lot of these stocks could be down 30, 40%. You have strategic as well as financial buyers with bids. So I think what this does do is it puts a bid in the sector. It shows where sort of the valuations are in terms of M&A on the cloud space. And I think this is definitely a positive, but now really comes down to rubber meets the road. In other words, what are the ramifications for the deal? Is IBM successful? And can they be number 3 player? And what are the impacts in the space?
And quickly here on the M&A front, valuations have been really high. That's what's kept strategics on the sidelines. They haven't been buying, but with GitHub and this deal at a nice premium, does this change this narrative for buyers? Are they opening their pocketbooks now?
Yeah, we believe you're going to see a surge in M&A over the next 12 to 18 months. Now is the window. I think you saw Microsoft GitHub with Red Hat. This sort of, in our opinion, sort of that tip of the sphere in terms of M&A.
And we've heard, Anurag, Ginny always says everything's underpinned by security. How much will security play a part in this new kind of hybrid strategy that they're pushing with this Red Hat acquisition?
I'd say both security and privacy would be the single most important thing because you're moving data from one ecosystem to another ecosystem. It has to be protected at rest. It has to be protected while it's in transit.